Welcome back to the first summer edition of the Beyond the Snap podcast. We are back. Finals are over. It's summer. We're happy. Past Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. But we're happy. We're back. And we've got some big news for you guys. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off with, oh God, what have we done? What did the NCAA do?
Well,
Or I guess properly, what did the courts do?
the court said, NCAA, time to fish out $2.75 billion and is giving now the rates to the players, or technically to the colleges, to pay the athletes. So I'm going to go over some of it. Kieran's going to go over some of it. First off, let's just say this. I'm going to go with the very basic stuff, the very surface level stuff. And it's basically the idea that now that colleges can pay players. This is like a whole new ball game now because it's about who has the deepest pockets. I mean, now the games can transition from, okay, this has the best program to make money, to now whenever teams can outright say, hey, we'll literally pay you out of our own budget based off of what we have in this like bank in our booster program, how much they're giving us. We'll just give you 2.7 billion or $1 million to come over here, and then everything's set. And what I mean by this is like now it's getting rid of that aspect of like this is the best program. You come here because you want to get NFL ready, and then you go to the NFL and make your money. And I feel like everyone's expected this to happen sooner or later. But I think this is just going to throw a wrench in everything. And now instead of saying maybe is it between I don't know Bama and Georgia, now the tiebreaker is going to be okay. Whichever school is willing to give up more money, I'll go there. And so that's some surface level stuff. Can get into the more meaty part of it, the more fascinating part about what's the effect on every other sport in that school or every other sport in the college. But yeah, that's just some basic level ideas about it. How is it going to affect where players choose to go? How is this going to affect recruiting?
Yeah, so as of right now, we're not 100% sure. It looks like this settlement is pretty final. All five Power 5 conferences have agreed to it. Don't know how the Pac 12 is still around. Don't ask me. They won't be. They're gone. Forget about them. But basically, the settlement is for past players that were not paid and I guess deserve to be paid. So it's going to be retroactively getting paid, something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But this case also, and I would argue more importantly for those of us who care about players that are still in college and not on the sidelines, is that, well, it changes everything. Now we're going to have a much different structure in terms of NIL. Now that pairs can get directly played, there's nothing really stopping schools and no rules that I've seen. Now the specifics are still to be deliberated, and I wasn't able to find any more current news about how that's going to come down, and there's still, it's going to take time and it may take a few years, but they have ruled that schools could pay players now, but it's really actually going to be devastating. And I have for a long time I've been on the side of this. I've thought players should get paid for their hard work, right? I know what it's like to play the sport of football. It's hard. It's hard on your body. It's hard on your mind. It's hard to keep your grades up while you're doing that, right? And I've long been on the side that they should get paid. But when you take into account how much schools will potentially have to give up and have already given up to pay players, it really doesn't seem worth it. So what I'm talking about here is when the door to paying players gets opened, it kind of creates this whole unintended cascade, right? Because schools will not magically generate more revenue when they pay players. So say a top line SEC school gets, $70 million a year in TV revenue. I don't know how accurate that number is, but it's ballpark, right? Then, presumably a good chunk of that is going to go back to the football team to upgrade facilities, pay coaches, do things like that. Some of it is going to go to players in the form of NIL and to the collective, sort of like that. It depends how their relationship works. And some of it, a big chunk, is going to go to the rest of the athletic department, because the athletic department will use that revenue to help fund lower down teams, right? So think field hockey, soccer, in some cases even baseball or softball, rowing, swimming, diving, things like that, right? All the other sports that are still compete at the same level as football does, but do not produce revenue. And so they need, things that cover their travel costs, the cost of uniforms, the cost to maintain their arena of whatever sort. And because at most programs and in almost all colleges, those don't generate revenue, those sports, football not spending all its money is what they rely on to get their budget. So now that you open the door to, I believe the wording was it was at minimum 22% of football revenue would go to paying players, and that could be raised up eventually and changed depending on how it works out. But that 22% of revenue is something like, if it's $70 million, that's at least several $1 million that is being taken away from those programs. And for context, so I believe the budget of, I think it was University of North Carolina, their men's and women's swim team combined, their yearly budget was $250,000. So that is over several times over the yearly budget of one of those smaller teams. So it really does make an impact, and it really will. I think you'll see a lot of those teams shuttered or perhaps at least changed as a result of this. Because now that money is going to football players, right? And even if they only get paid $30,000 or $60,000 each, which certainly seems like a fair salary when you look at it from the football perspective, they put in a lot of hours. But that's depending on, 80 scholarship guys at least around there in a Power 5 football team that are going to get $60,000. So that is several $1 million that are now going to paying them instead of helping keep those further down programs afloat. And we've already seen this effect somewhat, as some schools have had to, get rid of lower down programs, kind of shove them in the bin, right? To pay players with NIL. We've already seen that some, especially at smaller group of 5 universities and things like that. But I think we're going to see it more now that they can pay directly and don't have to jump through all the hoops of NIL. And now that pay is going to be a direct question in terms of recruiting. And the more money you have available to pay your football players, the better your football team is going to be. And now that they can pay the players directly, they don't have any reason to justify giving that money back. And now the athletic director may try to demand it, and I don't know how that's going to work, but that's an individual university thing. Because there's a lot of regulation, what this court decision has done, House versus NCAA, is it's taken this big burlap sack that has contained in it a bunch of cats, right? And they've just tossed it, and all the cats went every which way. And I mean, there's Georgia, a cat that looks like Georgia over there. There's a cat that looks like Texas over there. And then there's Texas A&M, the weird looking maroon cat. And then there's, Michigan and Ohio State fighting in a corner. And it's really created a huge amount of controversy, right? Like there have been questions over Title IX. Does 50% of the revenue have to go to female athletes? Does 50% of the revenue, does it have to be split evenly? Does it have to go evenly to the sports? Because they all do work, right? But they just don't generate revenue. Where does it have to go, basically? And there's a lot of kind of equality questions, and it's a very thorny question. And hopefully we'll eventually be able to bring you guys more clarification on this. But it is really a thorny topic. And again, I would encourage you, that as best you can, to think twice before you say, oh, this is great, right? Because it's going to have ramifications for other sports. I know on this podcast, we're not concerned about women's field hockey at the University of Alabama, but it's going to have an effect there. And I think it's important to recognize that effect and understand that if our kind of blindsided, just having justice in the space of football, because this certainly is that, right? Players deserve to be paid. They work hard. Just having justice in the spirit of football does not necessarily mean that it's completely just across the spectrum. And now I think it's an impossible question to answer, and I think regulators are going to do their best and may come up with a really good answer. They may come up with a crap answer, and we're going to kind of have to live with it, and recruiters are going to have to deal with it. and everybody else is just going to have to live with it. And so that's kind of how it is, right? And I've heard stories, particularly from the University of North Carolina, in a really excellent piece. I'll try to link in the description. Um, I believe it's the women's field hockey coach talks about how she was always a very big supporter of the football team because it got them more money. So you can see how there's that direct relationship and how it really makes really makes people and different has different effects and can create a lot of struggles lower down the order. But Kirtan, what else do you got on this kind of monumental topic?
Um, well, not much. It's just this is such a big impact on the collegiate athletic world, just in general, because of all the ramifications it has. Like we said, it's going to affect the players just in general. It's going to be like it's going to basically make NIL the super powerhouse, and now basically everything's going to run through NIL, whether that is paying athletes, whether that is running it's basically just going to become a individual athletic sport, meaning it's based off of individuals, not necessarily the team. I know that sounds weird, but what I'm trying to say is like now it's going to be self-focused. You're going to be looking at one player and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to give you extra money because you claim to be so much better. You have so much more hype around you. So I'm gonna have to drain funds from whatever school, whatever team of mine, whether that's women's field hockey, whether that's water polo, they're going to get less money, so I can give it to you. And now we're really going to have to see the effects. This year is going to be what I can consider the test year. We're going to see how all this is going to go down. We're going to see if there's going to be consequences as almost like, uh, I don't know, like maybe not riots, but maybe like strikes, maybe uprises of these smaller teams that don't get all this money and say, hey, don't forget about the little guys. Don't forget about us. We're still part of your school. We still deserve a piece of the pie. Just because Texas football makes so much money doesn't mean that you have to cut down our expenses or you have to cut down how much money we get. And it's just going to be a whole big thing. I think it's going to change the collegiate world forever, really, because now teams are going to be player focused rather than sports focused, and it's going to become just a almost a pay to win sport. I mean, Kieran said this before we even started the podcast, and I forgot if he probably said this, but he said, dude, what did you say? You said something about like how someone. Oh my god, I forgot it. No, Kieran said something about. Oh, I feel like it was. Hmm. Hmm. I
You think on that and get
totally
back
forgot.
to us, buddy.
Yeah.
That was very,
God.
very unprofessional there, and we apologize.
Oh, what
Um,
did you say?
he can't. He's trying so very hard, and he'll come up with it right after we've stopped recording the podcast. I
I
guarantee it.
probably will.
Um, but now we're going to move on to a little something where you sit in front of a TV for hours on end playing fake games of football with your friends. Kirtan, what's the latest?
Okay. I'm gonna get back to y'all on what Kieran said earlier. I'm sorry to leave y'all on a cliffhanger. I bet y'all figured it out. You just gotta give me some time. Anyways, we're gonna be discussing college football 25, as that seems to be where everyone in the college football headspace is at right now. This monumental game is supposed to change how everything is supposed to be played. From NCAA '06 was the first game that we saw, or the last edition, compared to this new one. So there's gonna be a major jump, 19 years almost. Um, there's not much to say. So NCAA football released its gameplay trailer, and it is absurd. They're trying to get rid of the Madden mold because they want to get rid of all the speculation that, oh, it's another Madden copy. This game is totally different. This game introduces new features like wear and tear. It introduces star player abilities, and I honestly can't wait to see this game. I know there's going to be some problems with it. Like, I bet you some of the features are going to be a little shaky to start off with. Like, if you watch the trailer, it said that Baylor was a 94 overall team, or 92. They said that Clemson was 95. And so I think some of it still needs to be changed. Some of it does need to be fixed. But I like the idea of the wear and tear. I mean, now we're going to see real life applications to this game where you can say like, hey, Quinn Ewers just took a major hit, or whatever quarterback just took a major hit to his arm. So therefore, he should have a lower like throw accuracy and a lower arm strength because he just took a major hit. And so I like how they're adding features that are like real world like applications. Like if someone breaks your finger or like you can't catch as well, if you get hit in the head or concussed, you can't think as well, like stuff like that. And I think it's going to really teach you to like having to sub in players at different times, having to rotate around. Um, some of the big questions that are still yet to be answered are NIL, and I'd love to see how they're going to implement NIL if they are going to implement recruiting. I heard that's going to be really fun. I wonder if like I pick Texas, will I be able to throw around $13 million, or if I pick Texas State, will I be able to throw around $5? Um,
$5.
stuff like that. And so that's another big feature I'm keen to watch. And then also they added this star ability. So the way that they're going to say that, oh, this player is a star compared to this player, because you have to think about it in the NFL, there's your superstars and then your stars. Because I would honestly argue saying anyone who makes the NFL is a star athlete because of the work and the dedication it took to get there. While in the college football world, you have a bigger standard deviation between it. You have one player that could be very like he could be just your average athlete, or of course he's still an athlete, but at the D1 level. But you could say your third string on an FCS Kent State, or you can say Quinn Ewers coverage athlete, and so there's a bigger disparity, and so those athletes are going to get different things. So one of the big features is now a home field advantage. So it's basically how loud your stadium is in real life is how loud, like there's going to be a bar and it'll tell you like how loud it is, and it's supposedly going to mess with the opponent team's head. But if you have like a star player like Quinn Ewers playing in A&M, let's say, that's a good example because Kyle Field is one of the biggest, the stadium's gonna be super loud, but because Quinn Ewers is supposed to be a star player, he'll have an ability that'll like mitigate that, and so he'll be able to stay concentrated on the game. I mean, it's gonna be so many fun features. I can't wait to see the team overalls. I can't wait to see the player overalls. I mean, this game is just gonna be so fun. I mean, I'm really interested just to see what they put different players at, what they put different teams at, because I can't wait to see like Carson Beck, quick 99 overall, rightfully deserved. Quinn Ewers overrated at 96 or whatever he's going to be at. But this game is going to be a lot of fun. That's what I'm interested in. Kieran, what are you interested about this game?
Yeah, I'm honestly super excited for the substitutions. I could not be more excited. I think it's brilliant that they've organized the playbook by personnel groups. It looks like an actual playbook, and I think it'll be brilliant. And I will most definitely be putting Tavondre Sweat at quarterback. Um, and various, I guess Tavondre Sweat's not there anymore. I don't know if he'll be in the game. Probably not. I will be putting a defensive tackle at quarterback. I can promise you that. That'll be a personnel grouping. Get him in there. Get that big man touchdown. Yes,
Okay,
Kirtan?
and quick note, I remember what Kieran said about the thing. So real fast, all I was trying to get to about the whole NCAA lawsuit, and this is what Kieran said, is that now since these teams are going to be paying money to the bigger athletes, the men's basketball, the men's football, there's going to be no space for scholarships for all these other sports. So maybe you're on a scholarship to go to UT to play to swim, let's say, because swimming is pretty big. But now what's going to end up happening is the sports are going to become pay to play, and this is exactly what Kieran said. I don't want to take any credit for this. This is what he said. And now other people are going to have to say, well, damn, I have to pay for all my equipment now. I have to pay for this, and this, and this, and this, just to get a chance to play on the collegiate level, to get recognized, to get playtime, or to get um, recruited. I don't know the term for swim, but to get noticed in the swim world. And so it's going to now become a like pay and plug in. So you're gonna say, I gotta buy all my gear, I gotta buy access to this, access to that, access to that, just so I get recognition. And while on the other end of the spectrum, you got all these NFL or all these NCAA players that are just here to make bank. And so now it's almost like NCAA football is kind of like semi-pro league, to be honest. The way all these players are getting paid, and I feel like everyone else is gonna suffer. Anyways, that was my quick reminder that I finally got. I kept thinking about it the entire time. Kieran, so sorry I interrupted. Back to you.
All right, yeah. So basically, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the substitutions. Going to have a lot of fun with that. And I think it'll make depth matter more. And I just think it's going to be a really cool, realistic game. We will have an episode on it. We will be playing the game probably a sufficient amount, get that work in, make some plays, create a player, all of that fun stuff that we will be definitely participating in. We are not becoming an NCAA football 25 channel, but there will be some content on it, and we will see who is good at controlling little ones and zeros running around on a imaginary generated Sanford Stadium. All right, so moving on. We have started a segment, and it was on our last podcast that will hopefully be posted before this one. We're doing 10 crazy or bold predictions. And those 10 or crazy bold predictions, at the end of the season, it's a competition. So we'll score 2 points for a correct prediction, 1 point for a semi-correct prediction, and 0 points for an incorrect prediction. And we will tally up these points, of course, 20 being the maximum and 0 being the minimum. And whoever has the most points will, at the end of the day, have some sort of football-related punishment that they will have to incur at the end of the season, which I'm sure will be loads of fun and everyone will enjoy. Now, Kirtan, go ahead and give us your bold prediction.
Okay, this prediction is I feel like this is very plausible. I feel like I hit the sweet spot because, like I always say, rivalry games are incredibly hard to pick, and this rivalry game in particular is probably going to be the most hyped game for at least the past 5 years, I'd say. I am talking about the Aggies, the Gig'ems. I'm talking about this game right here. The Hook'ems versus the Gig'ems. This game is going to be wild. This is the first time Texas and A&M have met, I believe, in 8 years. I think around then, since Justin Tucker kicked that amazing field goal to win it. Man, I cannot wait to watch this game. This game is gonna be so fun. But anyways, my crazy bold prediction is that in A&M Stadium, in Kyle Field, the Aggies will upset the Longhorns and win what is rightfully them and have their version of their Super Bowl. So that's my crazy prediction. I'm hoping it comes true. Well,
All right. So, I must consult the wall, and by wall I mean 2, of hats present behind me for this prediction. So, last time I predicted that Oregon would beat Ohio State for the Big Ten championship. Now, I am predicting that, and I'm not predicting the rivalry game, not in any way whatsoever, but I'm predicting that at the end of the year, come January, a certain team that resides in Columbus will be looking for a new head coach. That's right, Ryan Day will be fired at Ohio State after going 0-4 to Michigan. Get him out of here.
So they just hired Brian Kelly, and now they are going to fire Ryan Day and replace him with Brian Kelly. Is a prediction.
No, I didn't say that. No. They just fire Ryan Day. I don't care what happens after that. They just fire Ryan Day.
Well, there you have it. Those are some bold predictions. I feel like if these come true, that we might be.
I should get double points for that one, honestly.
I'll give you 4 points. I'll give you 4 points if
right.
that comes true.
I feel like it's still plausible, though. Like, realistically, he has not won against Michigan yet. And
I think he's going to do so this year.
Really? Okay. Well, I feel like, if he's got Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins and he still gets smacked by Michigan and gets beaten by Oregon if my other prediction comes true, he's not sticking around, buddy.
I don't think he'll be fired. I think he'll be I think he'd be in the hot seat. I don't think he'd be fired, but I'll give you double points because I think that is a much, much more bold prediction than mine. So I'll give you double points. I don't know what happened to my lighting here, but anyways, I think I'll give you double points for that one. But yeah, that was a very bold prediction. Kieran chose not to tell me this beforehand, so that was my genuine reaction to Ryan Day potentially being fired next year.
If it happens, I'm going to look amazing. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to look really, really dumb.
If it
So,
happens, this needs to go viral. Literally,
oh,
this
for
moment needs to
sure,
go
for sure.
viral.
All right. So, we are, in fact, done with this edition of the Beyond the Snap podcast. This is only the beginning. We will be back with much more summer content. Um, this is our time of year. We don't got no school. School is out. So you know how you can earn double points? You can earn double points by subscribing here on Spotify or on Apple, wherever you get your podcast. And you can subscribe on YouTube. And you get double points. Double points. To
Yeah,
what?
we'll
I don't
give you
know.
them.
Maybe they're
We'll give
very. You know
you
what? You
10
get double
points.
points. Yeah, exactly.
And if
So,
you leave a comment down below with your crazy prediction, we will not only bring it up in the next episode, but we will then add you to our scoreboard. So if your prediction comes true, we will shout you out and tell you, hey, this guy right here, John Doe, Jane Doe, they just cooked up a heater and gave you probably the boldest prediction that came true. We will give you all the shout out, all the praise. Just leave a subscribe, leave a like, leave a follow on all media, please and thank you.
yes, thank you very much. Have a good night, and we're out of here.